What happens when you're a magazine editor and you lose your magazine? It's not such a rare occurrence in this age of media downsizing. What happens to your stature, your sense of self, to your life? Dominique Browning had the misfortune to find out. She was the editor of House and Garden for 12 years till Condé Nast abruptly closed it. She recounts what happens in her book, Slow Love, how I put my job, put on my pajamas, how I lost my job, put on my pajamas, and found happiness. And Dominique Browning joins me now from New York, and you're not wearing pajamas.
I'm not wearing pajamas. Those days are over.
What happened? Describe the impact 3 years ago when you first got the news that House and Garden was closing.
You know, I was reeling, and I don't think it's just about having lost a magazine. Anybody who loses a job that they were committed to and that they loved has that job as a part of who they are and how they move through the world. And to lose it just topples you.
Is it a loss of stature? I mean, you're a big deal in your world, you're busy, everybody wants a piece of you, and then suddenly you're home alone.
Sure, it's a loss of stature, it's a loss of feeling needed and a loss of feeling wanted, but it's a loss of structure more than anything else. Work gives your day structure, and I talk about this in my book, Slow Love. It gives you a sense of purpose in the morning, it gives you a schedule through the day, and in a way, it gives you a way to avoid thinking about a lot of things that might be bothering you.
You also talked about stealing breadsticks from restaurants. You were a little economic uncertainty?
I wasn't quite stealing them, but I was definitely fantasizing about it. It's terrifying to go from having had a paycheck for 30 years to not knowing where your paycheck is going to come from next.
Now, you had spent, as I said, a dozen years at House and Garden. Before that, you were a top editor at Newsweek. Why didn't you throw yourself into finding a new job?
I did throw myself into finding a new job, and in fact, I got consulting jobs, and I just had the misfortune, in terms of timing, to be looking for a job when the entire industry started to fall apart. Just the wheels were falling off the wagons.
Right. I know so many people who have been through some version of that, losing jobs, not necessarily people who ran magazines. You describe yourself in the book, I mean, you don't mince words. You were a zombie. You were plunged into a nightmare. You were really struggling during this period that you now write about.
I was a zombie, and it was a nightmare, and I feel it's important for people to talk about what they're going through. The unemployment numbers are frightening, and they don't seem to be getting better fast, and a lot of us are out there suffering, and a lot of people need to be able to share what they're going through. It isn't just about not having the paycheck, it's also psychologically what it does to you. A lot of the response I've gotten to the book has been thanks for talking about what it's like to go through this, and thanks for explaining to me what my spouse is going through or my friend.
Right. The irony is that journalists write all the time about the impact of unemployment, and more of us are starting to experience it. But was writing the book and recalling, you know, the depths of your depression, and you used that word as well, wasn't it painful?
It was very painful. It's painful to go through, and it was actually painful to write about for a while, but it was also cathartic. It really helped me to talk about what I was going through, to be honest about it, to share it with friends and family, which is what you do when you write a book. You start sending chapters to people you know and you love and getting feedback.
Right.
And now it's very, very helpful to have other people say to me, thank you, I understand what you went through, and it's what I'm going through, and thank you for putting words to it.
But you pulled back the curtain on a time in your life that you probably weren't proud of some of the things you did and what you were going through. Do you have any hesitation about sharing that with the world?
You know, it's not a question of being proud. It's a question of why you write. And you write to be honest. There's no point in writing if you don't dig deep.
Suddenly you're not working, and then what happens?
I'm not working, I'm not overscheduled, and suddenly my inbox isn't full, and my children have grown up and left home, and they are busy with their lives, and they don't need me every day. And I'm in a relationship that is really fractured, and that person doesn't need me all the time, and so I have to rebuild my entire support structure. Even my friends who are busy working don't have time to take care of me all the time, nor would I want them to.
Right.
So it was a question of remaking a life from the beginning, really.
You sold your house, you left the New York area, and you moved to a small town in Rhode Island where you had a house, and you've, of course, now been freelance writing and blogging. So how's your mental health these days?
My mental health is great. I really feel on top of things again. Being productive and writing has been fantastic, but also I've been digging into the online world, and that has been a revelation to me. It's a whole different way of publishing, and it's a different way of thinking about what you do when you make a magazine. It's not about the paper and the ink, it's about what you have to say and how you can reach people. So I've had a great time with that.
Interesting transition after spending your whole life in print. And the other thing about online is you can always be on deadline at any moment. You have a thought, you can throw it up there.
That's exactly right.
Dominique Browning, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.